I request my committee colleague CA Chetan Jagatia to please escort the panelists for the last session. Mr. Maulik Jasani sir, Mr. Vijay Paradkar sir, and Mr. Sandip K. Sharma sir to the dais. And I also request CA Karan Vora sir, who is moderator for the session, to come on the dais. We are starting off the session right away, requesting all to please settle down. And I request my committee colleague CA Chetan Jagatia to take the session ahead and to take the proceedings ahead. Please, Chetan.
Good afternoon all. I hope you enjoyed the day. A power-packed day with lot of great speakers. And one of the best speakers to end with, we have the fourth session, the panel discussion on industry specifics, mergers and acquisitions, real-life panel discussions with industry insights, and latest developments in M&A space. So giving introduction of the first speaker, Maulik Jasani. He's the Vice President, Finance and Group CFO of Harsha Engineers, one of the best IPOs in the recent times that we have seen, Harsha Engineering Limited. Maulik Jasani is associated with Harsha Engineers since last 5 years and holding position as a VP Finance and Group CFO. He holds bachelor and master's degree in commerce. He is also holding CA, CS and CMA qualifications and having membership in all 3 professional institutional bodies. He is awarded with CA Business Leader 40, Under 40 by ICAI in association with CNBC TV 18 in Feb 23. He is a co-opted member of Committee of Members in Industry and Business of ICAI. He has over 16 years of experience in finance and was actively involved in the listing process of Harsha and various M&A activities in tenure with Harsha, Zydus and biotech groups. So can we have a good round of applause for Maulik bhai? The other speaker, Vijay Paradkar sir. He is the ex-Vice President of the head of Mergers and Acquisitions of Mahindra and Mahindra Limited. Currently working as a senior advisor with Oryx P of Japan, having 160 billion corpus since July 2020. A mechanical engineer by profession, in his tenure of last 12 years, he was the vice president and head of mergers and acquisitions of corporate Mahindra and Mahindra, where he was responsible for M&A, joint venture, disinvestments and PE investments activities of the group. Under his stewardship, M&A division of Mahindra and Mahindra have won various global awards. He has an overall of 36 years of experience in the areas of institutional and corporate finance, fund management as a fund manager of proprietary fund and venture funds, investment banking and M&A. Represented on the board of few unlisted and listed companies and one of the curious student of stock markets. So with this, can we have a good round of applause for sir? The third speaker we have with us is Sandip Sharma sir, a chartered accountant and a company secretary, having over 2 decades of experience in valuations, M&A, corporate strategy, treasury and business development. Have worked in reputed groups like Tata, Ispat, Kalpataru and Shapurji Palanji. Presently serving Torrent Power and heading their M&A department. Has extensively traveled across the globe for business, over 35 countries across 6 continents for M&A deals. We have a good round of applause for all the panelists we have here. And the session will be moderated by CA Karan Vora. Request to please take the session ahead. Would request my colleague and secretary of ICAI, Ahmedabad, Abhinav Malviya, to please present a bouquet and memento to Maulik Jasani sir. Requesting CA Chintan Patel sir, RCM, to please present a memento to Vijay Paradkar sir. Requesting Abhinav Malviya sir, to please present a memento to Sandip Sharma sir.
Yeah, so very warm welcome to Maulik bhai, Vijay bhai and Sandip bhai. And so this is the last session and I think we had a very insightful last 2 sessions which were quite technical also in nature. So we have understood how the deals are structured, it's how the deals are to be, how the DD should be carried on, what are the risks, and how the legal process is completed. Now we would like to understand the point of view of industry people from the senior leaders of industry themselves. So I'll start with Maulik Bhai. Maulik Bhai, we would like to understand recent M&A developments in your industry and especially your thought process on how you are looking at this M&A.
Sure. Yeah, good evening, everyone. About the recent industrial M&A, if you see in our industry, it is mainly engineering and capital manufacturing, especially automotive side. We have seen recently Tata Motor has taken over the Ford Motors plants in India. Apart from that, we also have seen that Syntex is being taken over by Welspun. But apart from that, if I give my view about how the M&A looks like going forward, recent time has a heavy headwinds for the global markets, especially because of the margin pressures they are facing as well as the inflations we are seeing across the world. Whereby I feel that India is positioned in very well situation because of the domestic demand as well as the catch richness of the corporates in India. Hence, I believe that India will be in a very good position to take advantage of this position at a global level, and we will be able to take over quite a good stress companies as well as stress assets outside India as well as within India. And capital industries are going to be a booming industries in the coming future, especially because India is considered to be a global manufacturing hub in the coming periods. We all heard a lot about China plus one, Europe plus one. But if we see that across the globe, if the country which is moving ahead, even reaching to the moon, is only India as of now. And that's what I see that this momentum will continue for a long. And we are very lucky to be part of this momentum. I'm also looking forward for quite a few inorganic as well as within organizations movements as well as acquisitions in terms of products as well as the companies going forward. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Maulik Bhai, I will continue the question. What is your thought process when you look at opportunities?
So, on the opportunities front, specifically on Harsha point of view, if we see.
From Harsha point of view, and how do you see M&A as, as a strategy or, inorganic growth in general?
So, if you want to be a reach bigger and if you want to move faster, M&A is one of the basic requirement for any leap growth. Basically, you can't do alone. If you do together with other companies joining hands with you, you grow faster. We are already exploring few opportunities in the terms of like stamping components where we have a precision requirement in Harsha. So if we see M&A from Harsha perspective, we are very focused on our core competency and we ensure that there are quite a few companies in India which are precision industries but in a small ticket size. So we want to ensure to take over that kind of companies and expand ourselves, either in form of taking over their business or in form of taking over the industries. That's what we are looking forward.
Karan, if I may just step in, you have been used to possibly wearing 40 size of shirts and your wardrobe is full of 40 size of shirts. When you are doing a M&A transaction, suddenly from tomorrow onwards, you have to have a wardrobe which should be able to manage 44 or 46 size of shirts. If you are not in a position to manage that, then what will happen?
So my next question is to Vijay Bhai. Vijay Bhai, you are a seasoned player of automobile industry. How do you see the industry going forward? What is your take on the recent developments on M&A side?
Well, it's a very challenging question. First of all, I have an advantage and I'm possibly the only non-chartered accountant person in this hall. So it's a very beautiful situation possibly. Because amongst the engineers, I say I have a degree in engineering, I'm not an engineer. Today I can authentically say that I'm an engineer. Just to give you a little perspective, backside perspective in a sense that if you see all over the world and more so in India, what are the foreign collaborators are looking for when they want to come to India in terms of joint venture or in terms of acquisitions? They are looking for markets because they just cannot overnight manage distributors, the geography, because you know in India language changes every 8 miles, as they say. Language, culture, style, likings, everything changes almost 10 miles down the road. So they do not know this topography. So they would like to know what is the distribution channel, how the dealers to be working, how the supply side situation is going to be, because 70% of the parts almost in automobile are bought out components, and only 30% is skill sets that you require in assembly. So if I may make that statement, and historically it can be also proven, that any automobile related transaction is that marriage or whatever you say. See, M&A is a marriage basically. You know, there is a bride, there is a bridegroom, there is a seller, there is a buyer. So if you extend that logic, then these are going to be all living in relationships. Sorry for my using that word. It is not going to be typical Indian marriage which lasts for Sat Janam, right? You take any transaction, be it Mahindra Ford or Hero Honda or Bajaj Kawasaki or any transaction, that will go on only for 8 or 9 years max or so, primarily because what they are looking for is to know the Indian markets very well, and what we are looking for is a technology. So so long as automobile manufacturer gets the technology, assembly related technology or any other high level of emission related technologies, etc., we are done with as automobile manufacturers. Whereas once they get to know the Indian markets, they don't require Mahindras or they don't require Bajaj of this world. So it is going to be a living in relationship, and you have to have a golden handshake and depart with friendship. So if you see Mahindra, for example, even if we have I wouldn't say divorce, but if we have gone ahead with, gone away from Ford, it is all in friendly relationship. I mean, at the leadership level, both are each other's friends, because it was known that we are not going to be there after 8 or 10 years.
So I think you are making a very important point, that you don't need to acquire a company. You can make a JV, you learn what the other has to offer, and then you continue on your own pace. Very nice.
So in the process, Indian manufacturer will have to remember that you are creating a competitor in the future.
Yes.
In the process. And therefore, you should become the competitor for them in their own country. So are you globalizing yourself? Is the next question.
Correct.
Which is what Mahindra has done. Right.
Yes. So I think I can put up the same question to Sandip Bhai now.
Yeah, good evening everyone, and thank you, Karan. So I am from energy sector. Now in energy sector, M&A, renewable sector has seen an all-time surge in past couple of years. The keenness of investor and the level of competition can also be seen in the valuation which we have witnessed in the last couple of years. FY24 has started on a slow note, but we are very hopeful that in coming months we will be seeing a lot of opportunities hitting the market. The recent trend in renewable sector, Karan, is that the churning out of renewable asset is happening at a faster pace. Most of the investors are financial investors who do not want to hold on to long-term assets. They just want to have quite a handsome return in the quickest of time period. So on the other end, if I talk about corporates, then the corporates having strong balance sheet and sound M&A process, they will be at a competitive advantage because they have the cash in their balance sheet and they have the processes. They will be able to extract synergy out of the proposed acquisitions. So I think the future is bright in energy sector, and in coming 6 to 12 months, and just to top on that, I have been given to understand that private equity funds in India are holding on to about $13 billion for investing in next 6 to 12 months. Now that's a mammoth amount, So we can see that next 6 to 12 months we will be witnessing a lot of M&A activities in energy sector.
Correct. So a lot of focus on renewables becoming carbon zero. and a lot of dry powder when you say, with private equity funds. What about the, so two things, so renewable is the future, but how strongly you will go in that, and what about your traditional business? So suppose Torrent Power and lot of oil companies or power companies, they still depend a lot on the traditional fuels. So any thoughts on that?
No, so Torrent going ahead would be focusing more on renewables. We have a coal-based facility of only 400 megawatts and gas-based facility of about 2.5 gigawatts. And our present capacity in renewable is about 2 gigawatt, which includes under construction projects also. But going ahead, we will be focusing more on renewables only. And we have set up a target of achieving 5 gigawatt of renewable capacity in the next 4 to 5 years. So that is the focus area.
Okay. So my next question is to Maulik Bhai. Maulik Bhai, you are now practically a large corporate listed company. So I am assuming that a lot of deals would be coming your way. So how do you see, what is your approach in analyzing those deals? So let's say at least 20 deals would be coming at you. You'll select maybe one or two which look interesting. So what is your approach in selecting those one or two?
Yeah, that's a good question. And yes, especially post-IPO when all the bankers knows that yes, we are flooded with some money and there are investments lying with as a cash surplus. As you rightly said, we got a 1 or 2 deals every week as an offer. But we are very clear as a HRSA. The first approach is we want to build on our existing competency. So we don't want to be me too kind of a product manufacturer or don't want to go into the common stamping business kind of a producers. So HRSA is very clear that our core competency is in a precision products. We have a core competency into the stamping of tooling. We have a core competency on a casting machining, and we want to develop the same core competency further. So that's the first filter point we carry. At the same time, HRSA has a good relationship, and as sir has mentioned very well, we learn from someone once we shake the hands, and it has to be a friendly relationship. So we never say no on the first instant. That's a very clear understanding that at least do a primary screening. After doing primary screening, if we see that there is a potential fitment, we approach that market. Second screening we do is on a market length, whether this is a good enough market for the future growth. Will that give me double-digit plus growth in future? Yes. And the last but not least, which everybody follows, what are the synergies lying there? Whether 2 plus 2 is 22 for me here, or it is at least 5 for me here, then again go ahead further filtering. That's the approach we follow. Some important aspects in dealing this is we also make some filtering is we don't want to go in some market where we have already bleeded in the past. So China market is closed for us. We don't want to expand further there, kind of an approach. We prefer domestic expansions. We prefer technology expansions. So technology handshake is more preferable than a just buying approach. So those are the kind of approach we follow. As a general, which everybody do follow, is we sometimes forgot while selecting a deal is a qualitative approach. Whether this company, this environment is right fit for my corporate culture. The philosophy we are following, have they grown in the same philosophy? Are they equally corporate governance people? Are they equally transparent? So just not 2 plus 2 is equal to 5, but also whether this is the right bride for my family also, and not for me only. So that's the approach also we follow.
So I think textbook approach, whether it's so you want to stick to your core competencies, which is precision manufacturing, then you want to maintain your margins, you don't want to enter into low profit sort of markets.
Products, yeah.
And you are looking for synergies.
And rather textbook, one more point I will add here is, we feel that there is a great room available to us. As sir has rightly mentioned, 70% of automobile products going from the ancillaries. Ancillary suppliers. Apart from that, we are highly into the industrial products also, where the growth is tremendous across the world. So we see that the potential is so high in our own field, rather than, and we already experienced by diverting into the solar. So that experience is already done. So we feel that it is better to expand in our own field.
So I was part of in a solar story long back. Anyways, so Vijay, I think you are much more seasoned. So this is the textbook approach. Maybe you can add something on to, because you have seen so many deals, right? what would be your approach in past, and what were the liberties that you guys took?
Okay, I will possibly concentrate more for next few minutes on not the hard issues, because we have been discussing them since morning, right? And some of them were okay for me, some of them were not so okay for me. Not in terms of disagreement, but in terms of, absorbing. So I will go to the easier part, which is the most difficult part, believe me, because deals are made or not made depending on not on the hard issues as to what valuation, what pricing, because pricing is a different issue and value is a different issue. As they say, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, right? So I will more concentrate on some of the soft issues which are required to be handled, because your deals are invariably, whether you will accept formally or otherwise, 60 to 70% of the deals are off the table just because wavelength has not matched. And what does that wavelength means is the soft part. It includes, I have dealt with, in a sense, that some of these etiquettes, if you don't go by, if you're dealing particularly with non-Indian collaborators, your deal is off. You must know the mannerisms, you must know how to shake hands with the Australian person, you must know how to shake hands with the Europeans, and, with equal pride. There is no need to, feeling as inferior. Example, if I can give example, in China, there is, the major decision is always taken by one person, and he joins you in the discussions in the evening, believe me, on the dinner table, on the circular dinner table, right? During the day, you take 3-4 points, discuss, no decision will come, but that fellow who comes in the evening will give you the decision. And when that decision is to be taken, there is a practice that alternate person will be Indian Chinese. You have to see that as a mannerism. And after some time, one Chinese will get up with a glass of rice bran oil, alcohol, and he will come to you and ask for a cambu. Cambu means you have to join hands and drink it to the bottom. So you must have in your team one person who is non-alcoholic, which was always me, because I was a non-alcoholic person. Because what happens is, if he says cambu, then you have to drink it to the bottom. And after every some time, some Chinese will get up from some corner of the table and come to you and say cambu. You have to also reciprocate. So you can't say that I will not. So within 2 or 3 glasses, you are out. You are done. They are fresh. And then the discussion starts.
So Ravi, now I know why I lost a deal 16 years back in China. I was a teetotaler at that point of time.
So I used to take only this much of some fruit juice. And if you tell them that I don't drink because of religious reasons, they are okay. Right? So ensure that that lady who puts in the drink, she doesn't fill up your glass. So these are some, this is just an example. In Japan, when you go and discuss with Japan, first thing they will ask you after settling down is, so when is your return ticket? If you tell them by mistake that day after tomorrow I am going back, nothing will be discussed till day after tomorrow, 11 o'clock. At 3 o'clock they know you are leaving. At that point, discussion points will come. So you just tell them that I have an open ticket. So as long as it takes, I have no problem. These are some of the small things that we have to keep in mind. But on a more serious note, some of these, today we are in the asset-light acquisitions era, right? Where you are more talking of digital assets and so on and so forth. So, critical points are 2. Will the employees stay back? We faced that situation when we were taking over Pininfarina in Italy. Some of the Italians, we got information. How I got, that's a separate issue. That some of the critical design engineers, automobile design engineers, are not willing to work for Indian ownership. Right? Now, if those engineers are going to leave, if those design engineers, 3 or 4 in particular, out of, even if it is out of 300, what am I buying? Because I'm buying the skills of designing, right? So Pininfarina is the best possibly design company in the world in the field of automobiles. What am I buying really if they leave? Second situation comes up is, one is related to employees, and the second related to strategy. Do you have a strategy which is more related to win-win? You cannot say, I would always negotiate for the best price from the buyer's point of view, because seller is also looking for the same. He wants to sell the assets at the best price, at his best price. So if both of you are going to stick to your own stand, then the deal is not there. So you have to compromise something. You have to ensure that the deal at the end of the day, when seller is selling, he feels that he has got the deal, and you as a buyer also should feel that you have got what you wanted. The third most soft aspect, critical soft aspect, is related to customers. Same is the case with Pininfarina. Now, Pininfarina said Mahindra & Mahindra is an automobile manufacturer from Asia, from India in particular. Now, Pininfarina, the biggest clients are BMW, Aston Martin, Rolls-Royce, Mercedes-Benz. Now, those people started feeling that why should we stay back with Pininfarina? Because if whatever design contract that we are going to give this to company, these customers said that how do we ensure that our designs are not given to Mahindra & Mahindra, shared with them? So are you creating what kind of a structure, in a sense, Chinese walls, are you creating or not? Whereby those Pininfarina on standalone basis we will not, as Mahindras, we will not have access to those designs because of complete compartmentalization of the not design sharing. So what kind of a confidence you can give to those customers that they should not run away? Because if they constitute 80% of the revenue of that company, and if they go away, then what am I buying? So these soft issues related to customers, related to ownership, negotiations, I just talked about one price, about valuation, but there are so many other aspects of making the deal to happen. And the third one is related to customers, is very, very critical. One of the companies that we acquired in Maharashtra, two-wheeler company, Kinetic, at that time, as I think Mr. Ketan Dalal was saying, that senior vice president of that company, the kind of salary package that he was getting was equivalent to salaries which we give in Mahindras for managers. Now, just because we are merging these two companies, if you are telling them that you are going to come into managerial cadre from senior vice president, so from tomorrow onwards you will be called as manager, he will leave. What will he go back and talk to his wife and his family? That yesterday I was senior vice president, now I am manager. So these soft issues are extremely critical to be addressed to. Otherwise you don't have the deals. And that is why M&A is not necessarily, my biased view possibly, is not necessarily the aspects that we discussed 2 sessions before, but it's more of an art than science. Sorry, please.
Right, thanks. Now, to Sandip Bhai, I would like to ask the similar question that you have been in power also, you have been in steel also, 20 years of M&A experience. How do you screen the deals, if I may ask that, put up that question? How do you see valuations? What comes out as interesting? What do you leave on the table?
So I totally agree with my co-panelist. It's an art. M&A is an art. It's not science.
We are able to hear you.
Right. So the approach is different at different point of time, and it differs from company to company. And every deal is unique, and it comes with its own set of teachings. So, for example, if I talk about my present sector, then, till last year, renewable sector was suppliers market, the sellers market, wherein the seller was commanding premium over valuations. But now the scenario has changed. And so is our approach, while selecting or rejecting any proposal. So just to give you an example, till last year, we were willing to consider average return on investments. But now our focus has changed. Now we are looking for quality assets with more than average return and with optimum debt equity mix. So the approach is like, we look out for possible reasonable targets, which is a strategic fit to our organization. So we carefully choose our target. Then we look for a valuation. We try to bridge the gap between, the seller's expectation and our reasonable valuation. We also focus on, what improvements we will be able to make if we acquire this company, whether, it makes sense to our business or not. If you see the last 40 years data on M&A, about 54% of M&As have been a destroyer. They have not been able to add value. But the good part is that the balance 46% M&A deals have added value, and in some cases they have added value up to 5 times of the price. So there is value, but you need to see that, you don't miss out on the strategic fit aspect, the price which you are paying, whether it is a synergy with your company, your group or not, whether you have a plan for an appropriate integration or not. Because I've seen in my personal example also that, if you acquire a company without having a plan for its integration with your group, then the future is not bright, that deal is going to be a pain for the organization. I think he has already touched upon some of the soft issues, which are very, very relevant, like, for example, the organization structure of the target company, etc. So, yes, so a well-defined, a well-planned approach in place is required for considering any M&A deal. And that is where, the expertise comes into play.
In this context, he mentioned about integration plan. At least in Mahindra Group, there is a practice that you cannot go for the approval to the board of directors of Mahindra unless you have a 100-day integration plan also forming a part of the documentation. It is not sufficient to only have a proposal as to what is the price I am going to pay, what are the deals, structures, and all other paraphernalias of the M&A transaction. It has to be accompanied with how are you going to integrate this company with our philosophy, with our governance practices, because governance is ultimate in Mahindra Group. How are you going to integrate all these things, including IT platforms? Because if that company is on, we are on SAP and they are on Oracle, then how are you going to even integrate IT platforms? If you are going to acquire a company in Europe and their financial year is January to December, my financial year is April to March, then how am I going to eventually consolidate? Because there is a time limit for us to present audited results to our own regulators, being a listed company. So accounts department, IT department, HR department, commercial department, operations department, production department, they have to all indicate that what synergies are going to arise, how are they going to encash, and in first 100 days, show us the proof of the pudding that you are going to achieve these kinds of synergies, or you are going to integrate these kinds of things. If that 100-day integration plan with specific responsibilities assigned to CIO, assigned to CFO, assigned to production in charge, unless there is a complete action plan presented to the board, that acquisition will never be approved by the board. So 100-day integration plan is, in marriages also they say, right? If you see daughter-in-law and mother-in-law, if relationship has to be good, they must gel. Their chemistry should be matching in first 100 days. If they don't match their chemistry in first 100 days after the marriage, it will never match. They will always be at the loggerheads. So exactly same identical situation is applicable even for M&A transaction, and which is where quite a few corporates take a shortcut. And there are no advisors today to help corporates to prepare 100-day integration plans. So as possibly CA fraternity, you can offer, expand your services to help corporates prepare 100-day integration plan related to accounts, related to financial planning, etc., etc. You know, that's one area where there's a huge demand.
Management consulting services, basically, yeah. But the integration plan does make a lot of sense. So I'll come back to Sandip for a second. So you said that return of invest ROI is very critical when you look at a deal. So at the time of screening only you try to run the numbers and try to find out what kind of returns a particular deal is going through. And is that your sector specific, or is it something that everyone should do?
Well, none of the deal goes through, without having a concrete return on investment IRR picture in mind, and it depends, on the strategic need. For example, in our case, what has happened in the last 2 years, we were trying to get some acquisitions done in order to speed up our inorganic growth. So we compromised on the return on investments. But now, since we have already made up a sound platform, now we are not in a hurry to go for any target compromising on our internal rate of returns. So that is why, now we can command a premium and we can ask for better and above average return. And we are looking for those kinds of targets only, where we believe that, we can add value to the operational efficiencies, we can increase the operational efficiencies and can bring that acquisition, that target to a level, wherein we can achieve what expected returns we had, emphasized.
So you want to run the companies efficiently and improve your margins, basically. That is the focus area.
Yeah, so Karan, if I tell you in a very normal way, then, if an asset is valued for 100 rupees and if you offer 100 rupees only for that, I don't think you will end up acquiring that asset. So until and unless you give a premium on the existing value, your chance of winning would be low. Now, why will you give a premium to the value is because you know that, even if you offer 105 rupees today, tomorrow you will end up gaining 110 rupees because that 10 rupees additional, you will be able to bring those kind of operational efficiencies into the project.
So I just want to add here on the same point what Sandip said. We do have an internal hurdle rate, so internal IRR rate, so that is the most minimum. But it can never be a deal breaker. We are open to negotiate that. But about the last point what he said, we also follow the similar concept that you should pay a premium, but that premium has to be from the visible synergies. And you should ensure that you keep your pocket also filled when you see a visible synergy. So that's the approach one has to follow. Obviously, in the market like this, Sandip, where there is a stress assets available, you can be lucky enough to get a discounted value. And there are people who have actually acquired very good assets at a very good discount value.
Sure.
There is in DCF valuation, most of the time I have seen quite a few deals. DCF is widely used methodology for valuations. I have yet to see a transaction where genuine value, DCF value is coming from first 5 years of projections. The real value comes only in perpetuity. The theory says that not more than 66% of the DCF value should come from perpetuity. That's theory. Invariably, in practice, how much it happens, I don't know. But later on,
you set the price.
Synergy valuation and accretion, not directly, even indirectly, right? Like what Mahindra learned, Mahindra Ford cars may not have been sold, but because of that collaboration, the kind of assembly-related technology and practices that Mahindra learned as a group, that saved a lot of money on the assembly operations of Scorpio, of Bolero, while assembling those vehicles. And those cost savings directly are not attributed to the JV of Mahindra and Ford, but Overall, as a group, it was extremely beneficial.
Yeah, quite interesting. So that is also a way of looking at it. You know, what else are you gaining from that particular merger? And as Maulik also said that, you know, it's not a deal breaker, the pricing, but you have to understand, you know, what you are getting from the acquisition. So my next question is to Maulik. You know, Maulik, I think you have done one internal restructuring in the case of reverse merger, and I think you have done some inbound merger as well. So what were your experiences, you know, challenges that you faced, and what were your learnings from these two exercises that you have done in your company?
So about both the mergers, we did around last 2 years, we did two merger. One was a domestic merger, as you rightly mentioned. It was a reverse merger, whereby we did 5 Indian companies merging into the one of the group company. The good part over here is, again, they are not wholly owned subsidiaries. There were a group companies involved here. We learn over there, the purpose of doing a reverse merger, again, before going to the learning, was to ensure that we enjoy the consolidated merger with all the shareholders, consolidated resources available for the group at one location. And also at the same time, we were looking for ensuring that our solar business, which was the smaller unit, so we merged the father into the son, whereby the engineering business, which is a larger unit, gets merged into the solar unit. So that solar unit continue to have their past experience eligibility, so that they can continue to quote for the tender. That's the one of the major reasons, apart from obviously other reasons, including the tax benefit, which is always there being CA. So having said that, the first learning we have over there, Karan, is maybe the people whosoever is going to the NCLT, either with Gujarat or Maharashtra, we see Tariq pe Tariq approach there. And especially since last 2 years, we have seen a lot of delay in approving the schemes and mergers, and which has impacted us a lot. Fortunately or unfortunately, we were lucky enough, we got the order on 23rd December, and whereby the tax return was extended to 31st December, and AGM extension was taken from ROC on 31st December. So we were at least there at a last moment to ensure that our merger gets through. That was on the domestic merger. We also did one inbound merger, whereby our special purpose vehicle, which was in the Netherlands, we merged our wholly owned subsidiaries of Netherlands into the India after the domestic merger. And there is a special approval, deemed approval available from RBI under the cross-border merger regulations rule 9 of the RBI, whereby there is a deemed approval available for any foreign entities to be merged with the Indian entity, subject to some conditions needs to be fulfilled, including the critical condition is there is no outstanding between the entities in foreign currencies. If that is fulfilled, we can do this. So this is one of the rare merger happens recently at India level. Hardly, at the time when we did, it was hardly 3 or 4 mergers happens at India level, which is an inbound merger. We enjoy that merger. The purpose of that merger was also to remove or eliminate the white elephant from the organization, because the special purpose vehicle was incurring the recurring cost, and we want to eliminate that cost. And this is the best tax efficient way to do it, including liquidation at Netherlands as well as merger in India. Learning, sir has rightly mentioned, and we have actually, I could have heard him 2 years before, we would have a 100 days plan. Yeah. Unfortunate, I have heard him today, and we were not having 100 days plan. And you know what, I faced the situation when the merger order was announced, everybody enjoyed the party. Party was over, and my house was so mess, and cleaning job किसके ऊपर आता है, घर पे party खत्म होती है उसके बाद husband के ऊपर, someone said. Rightly said. So it comes to me, director said, I am tired, मैं सो जाऊँगा, अभी तू देख, being a CFO. So that's the challenge where we face, because we do not have that great plan activities post merger. Although we could manage it well with the customer supports and all, but yeah, there is ARP integrations, employee integrations. Although within a group companies, there were different HR policies. So uniforming that HR policies, Saturdays offs, timings, there were quite a few things we come across. Fortunately, at the same time, we have a IPO activity started. So another challenge we face is financials. Because we, being over smarts, we did the reverse merger. So when I want to go for an IPO in the market, I can't show the real performance of my engineering company, because it is no more available. It is only the reverse merger entity available. So only last year number is available with engineering. Previous 2 years were not available. So we have to, so if you see it is there in public domain. So we publish our DRHP with a Performa Financial also. Again, unfortunately, fortunately, Performa Financials, there is no guidelines in the market, not even with the ICAI, not even with the past incidences. There is some guidelines, but not very clear-cut, defined guidelines, how we want to approach it. So again, we play in the dark, we try our best, and we come out with the best solution. So those are the challenges we face. One best learnings I have across both the mergers is you should have a right consultant. You should have a right approach so that they can keep on guiding. If we miss the 31st December timeline, we would have missed the all tax benefits and everything. So although it was delayed, but it was not too delayed that we missed all the benefits available from merger. That's it.
Very, very interesting, I would say. So, Vijay bhai, so we heard a very, rather very spot-on advice about integration. So, I'll change the question a bit. You have, I think, taken part in number of deals, right? And M&As are, acquisitions are notorious for surprises that come up afterwards. So, give us some insights on structuring, how do you take care of those skeletons in the closet? What your company's policy were and what were your personal experiences?
No, actually, situation differs from case to case basis.
Yeah, maybe one or two examples you can cite, about any real cases.
Okay. If I have to recall, because, during 12 years of my stay with Mahindra's, we did nearly 155 M&As, cross-border, internal, etc. etc. So, Kinetic scooters, Luna and Kinetic Honda, that kind of a brand. That company, when we acquired, that company was about to go for BIFR. All right, at that time, BIFR was there, IBC was not there. So, earlier, we were thinking of having share purchase. But the moment we went through the details of financial statements, the complete details related to the kind of, can I use the harsh word, mess that they have created, we changed the structuring from share purchase to actually creating a structure where there will be a subsidiary. Eventually, the resultant structure was Mahindra created a subsidiary where we purchased the assets on individual assets basis. It was not slum sale. Why we did not do some slum sale? Because in slum sale, you are taking over the liabilities as well, assets and liabilities. So we never wanted to take up the liabilities of the company. At the same time, we were not wanting that company to go into BIFR and then get into another orbit. So actually we opted for individualistic asset purchase kind of a methodology for asset purchase, but those assets were purchased by a subsidiary company of Mahindra and Mahindra, which was resisted by Kinetic. So vanilla, I mean the cream which was offered to them was that we will give you the stake instead of giving you for asset purchase some 100 crores to you. We are willing to consider maybe 20% in that downstream company in lieu of cash. So you become the partner, skin in the game kind of a situation. So they immediately agreed, primarily because they became the partners in Mahindra Group companies and whatever reputation Mahindra carries. So part of the consideration was paid in cash, not to the company, but it was paid to actually offset some of those creditors, because otherwise the creditors would have blocked our transaction. So whatever money that was required to be paid to the creditors, exactly that amount of money was paid to the creditors. Consideration was shown to be paid in cash to the Kinetic company, which was then paid to the creditors, and 20% which was in excess was worth of shares were given to the Kinetic. So that was a kind of specific asset purchase that we did. Peninfer I did mention. How did we mask? Of course, we went and talked to Land Rover, we went and talked to Rolls-Royce. all these key people were talked about, BMW, and we assured them that we are the company known for governance, if not for anything else. I mean, Mahindra today, I can proudly say that, when I was hired for this job, one of the taglines which I was told by extremely senior leadership is that, Vijay, I cannot promise you the kind of market rate that you may be getting in the market in terms of your salary, but I can promise you one thing, that you will get your sleep. When you go to the bed every day night, you will be able to sleep peacefully. So, which means I was told that, we will not ask you to do anything which is diluting the governance standards for your own ethics as well as for the corporates. So keeping that in mind, we went and talked to customers openly that we assure you that none of your designs, whatever Pininfarina will design for you, none of these designs we will have an access. That kind of a strong Chinese structure, Chinese walls we will create, number one. And number two, it got reflected in the structure as well. So technically, if you see, Pininfarina to the extent of 60% was paid for by Tech Mahindra, because Tech Mahindra at that time had just merged into, Satyam had merged into Tech Mahindra at that time. So Tech Mahindra was very strong on engineering vertical. There are 4 or 5 verticals in IT sector, BFSI being one, and so on and so forth. So Tech Mahindra was very strong in engineering sector because of Satyam lineage. To leverage that, 60% of the stake was taken by Tech Mahindra. So on the front, it was not a Mahindra acquisition, it was a Tech Mahindra acquisition. And 40% in order to give comfort to Tech Mahindra, because Tech Mahindra at the end of the day, it's an arm's length company, separate listed company. So to give them a comfort also, Mahindra took 40% stake in that company. So we took a second fiddle role and put Tech Mahindra in the front for that acquisition of that transaction, which actually was like a sixer, because Pininfarina was a listed company in Italy, so open offer got triggered in Italy. So that was also required to be handled besides handling the customers. That also gave comfort to the employees who were very identified as a critical employees, which I mentioned earlier, that if they leave, what will happen to the company. So these kinds of structuring adjustments you got to do besides whatever is required to be done as a part of your chartered accountancy practices. But these are commercial related decisions which are required to be involved in structuring.
So on the lighter side, I see
and
that...
I can give you 5-10 other examples, but for the time.
On the lighter side, I see that there will be 100 applications going to Mahindra tomorrow for the job vacancy. The
Yes.
way you are aspiring us.
No, I can assure you that it is, though if you are going and working for Mahindras, you will peacefully sleep at night. You will not be asked to do anything which you are not supposed to do. Any ethical person, whatever you are not supposed to do, you will never be asked to do. Because the group is very, very clear philosophy-wise that I don't get profit, I don't care, but I will not make profit at the cost of diluting governance.
Likewise, sir. Thank you.
Makes sense. So that is a characteristic of groups who consistently do well.
And I'm very proud of it. Therefore, I'm openly mentioning that. Although I'm not a Mahindra employee as of now.
So now I would pitch same question to Sandip bhai. Recent deals that Torrent Power has done, and what were your experiences, interesting experiences in those deals, challenges that you faced, and the learnings, if you can share a few.
So Karan, if you allow me, I will give you an example of a deal which we did 19 years back, and that was my first deal as a team member in acquisition, and that's a very interesting case actually, which I would like to share. And facts are stranger than fiction, so some of the facts in this deal would appear, childish or silly to you guys, but it actually happened. And I'm talking of a big group, Ispat Industries Limited, the younger brothers of Alan Mittal. So we had acquired one company in Philippines in the year 2004, a steel company. Now this acquisition, this was a government company in Philippines, and the local bankers had an exposure in that company. And we acquired this company from The acquisition financing which we agreed with So the acquisition financing which we agreed is that, we agreed that we will pay the acquisition finance over a period of 3 years. So we all were very happy. We closed the deal, celebrated and we arranged the acquisition financing also. We had a tie-up with a few banks. We did the road shows, etc., got the tie-up done, and we were all very happy that in coming 3 years we will be paying it in different tranches, and the company is ours from tomorrow. Now, we all forgot that, what about the working capital financing? Steel companies requires a lot of working capital. So, this was a steel manufacturing unit. The raw material was the steel slabs. We required, in the first consignment to have about $10 million to get steel slabs. The promoter said, I don't have any money, you arrange working capital financing for this. So we approached the local bankers there in Philippines. They said, no, we cannot finance. We already have an exposure in terms of acquisition financing. So we won't finance. We came to the Indian lenders. Indian bank said that, okay, we will help, but first of all, you need to have some local banks having exposure in working capital financing. Then only we can extend our financing. So, we were quite taken aback. The Philippines bankers were not lending the working capital. Indian banks were not lending the working capital. How the plant is going to run? Then what we did is that we got into a cash and carry arrangement with the State Trading Corporation, government company, wherein they agreed that they will be issuing letter of credit to our suppliers and will help us in getting the raw material. Again, very happily, we signed that agreement. We were very happy that, okay, now that problem is over. The first consignment came to Philippines in our plant, and it was under the lock and key arrangement with State Trading Corporation. So we said that, okay, the plant is now functional, you give us the raw material, we also have got an order, we will convert it into finished product, STC said, hold on, it's a cash and carry arrangement, you need to pay cash to me before taking out the raw materials out of my warehouse. We said, boss, we don't have cash. If we would have been having cash, we would have purchased it directly from the supplier. Why we will pay brokerage and commission to you? They said, it's your problem. You only came to us. And you have signed an agreement and now you are saying that you don't have cash. Then again, we were in a problem. The raw materials are lying in the factory, but we are unable to use that raw material. So then again, we all, applied our brain and we came out with a solution. What we did is that, we assigned the customer LCs to State Trading Corporation that, look, we have got firm orders, we have got letter of credit from reputed banks. We are assigning it to you. Basis that you allow us credit of raw material, release the raw material to us, we will convert it into finished product, we will sell it to the customer, we will realize money and will pay you back. So then, they also thought that, without this, again, they also have an exposure of $10 million of raw material. So they agreed to that at last. But, this kind of scenarios, it practically has happened. It might look, that how these things can slip, but it actually slipped. So these are the learnings from acquisitions. Every deal is unique. So, one has to be very, very cautious about the future aspects also, and the deal doesn't close by paying the acquisition price. The game starts actually from there.
If I may share one, extraordinary situation that we witnessed, and there was a steel plant that Mahindra was having, Musco, those who know, near Khopoli, on Mumbai-Pune road. And it is now taken over by a company called Sanyo Steel. Initially it was in the nature of joint venture. We offloaded 49% in favor of Sanyo Steel. At that time, generally we talk about due diligences, right? Due diligences of finance, tax, legal, operational due diligence, business due diligence, blah, blah, blah. These people they were giving maximum stress on due diligence related to environment. And environment doesn't mean how much pollution that you cause, etc., etc. When we said, yes, you can carry out environmental due diligence, what they brought is heavy earth digging equipments. Because they found out that, if those who know the topography, on one side you have Ghats, Western Ghats. From there the water gets seeped inside the soil, and the village is on this side and your factory is on this side. So water which gets down into the water table under the soil, that water eventually flows to the village, that city, Khopoli city, under the ground as water stream. And downstream they have all the wells and everything which they use it for drinking water purpose. Now, in between there is a factory. So the Japanese guys, they went and dug the hole right up to 60 meters. 60 meters is too big, right? With their own equipments which they got it from Japan. And they ensured that this water is not contaminated by the steel factory which is there above the ground in terms of steel slags. When they were convinced that there is no steel slag related contamination seeping into that water, and this water is not being infected, which is going to the villagers for their drinking purpose, only then they signed the deal. That's the level of due diligence sometimes gets involved in some of these crucial, and which possibly some of these things will come into brick and mortar industry in the times to come.
So Maulik, now we want to, all of us want to hear about your IPO experiences, of course.
Amazing. Because I can't explain, you need a one day session for that for me. But yeah, it was amazing experience. Fortunate enough, maybe a lifetime opportunity for any CA. And for me, I will say lifetime opportunity in my young age. So it was cherry on the cake. Enjoyed it a lot, end-to-end executions, lot of learnings. I will say lot of things I have carried because I got a free hand from the promoters. The value and the goodwills they carried in the markets has given us further expansion plans. Investors were very welcoming on a company like us. And as you rightly mentioned initially, or maybe he has mentioned initially, we were the first company came at that time when the market was really slow on the IPO front. And we boom up the IPO market again. Fortunate enough, again, HRSA was that HRSA received 178 times applications in QIB category, which was the highest at that point of time. I'm not sure, I'm not tracking that after. And we were 75x overall subscribed. Everything was well. But yeah, lot of hiccups, lot of efforts. At least at that time, we were not having a peaceful sleeps, not because of the management, but because of the load.
One of the challenge, if you can, one or two small.
The best challenge in IPO, if anyone is aspiring or any company is aspiring, I know the one. But yeah, apart from that, if any other companies is aspiring, the best challenge for IPO company or aspiring IPO company is to explain your story to the investor. What you are doing is great in your own eyes. But when you go to the market, especially size of HRSA, which is what, 4,000 crore market cap, it's a very small size from the investor perspective. The things which my management has done in last 40 years, we have to explain in 40 minutes. And including what we will do in next 20 years. So that's what, 60 years, some days before of our IPO launch, SEBI came with a proposal that abhi ek sponsor bank nahi, there has to be 2 sponsor bank. And that was the time when this small QIB and the large QIB started as a split. And hence there was a good amount of load on the QIBs also. So overnight we have to appoint another sponsor banks, drafting them, finalizing them. That all type of challenges were there, but we enjoyed the journey. The more important part here is, obviously, still journey is on. But yeah, thanks for asking that.
One more question to you, Maulik.
Yeah.
So a lot of us here are practicing CAs. What would you, if you have to advise them, how to interact with industry? How would you advise them to develop M&A practice? If you can give a very short.
So M&A is a very wide scope. I think I'm sure by the time from the day morning to evening, you would have seen that there are a lot of talk happens on a lot of different topics in M&A. So from starting from making information memorandum, if it is a strategic M&A or a PE take-up M&A, or making internal notes for your internal M&A, till the time of post-integration, there are a lot of activities involved. So if you are practicing, yes, just make yourself expertise in any one field, you can do well. If you are working as a CFO or working as a finance partner, definitely there are a lot of things you can incorporate yourself as a CA. As a CA, we go by default one basic qualities of making a value addition. Something comes to our table, we should ensure as a CA we make some value addition to it. Otherwise, there is no sense that things pass through from your table as is. As a CA, one approach I always follow in my career is, if something has been bring to my attention, I have to make some value addition to that things, or else I have to learn something from it. Either of has to happen. Both happens, nothing like it. So on M&A front, I will say, Karan, lot of areas are there. You can start from information memorandum to the integration posting. Even sir has given a very good idea. 100 days post-integrations consultancy service. No one is giving in the market as of now, because it is very tailor-made. Each company has their own requirement. But if you can expertise it, you have X value in the market. Obviously, rest everything is there, doing a merger practice, valuation practice, CA practice, being creative, because being CA, we are always creative. Saurabh has already said, we have already witnessed goodwill criteria, intangible criteria. I did everything inside us time, lucky, unluckily, it is no more available now. So, but yeah, you can be that creative in all area. I just want to divert a topic here is, M&A is part of our life journey also. If I see myself, I used to be around 18 years back, a Maulik who is dependent on his parents. And now I am seeing myself as a Maulik, whom there are quite a few people are dependent on, I am able to manage quite a few things. So how can I expand myself with a number of merger and acquisition in my own skill? So as a CA, we have to always keep on doing M&A with our own self, seeing that how I am growing, becoming M&M in future, or becoming Reliance in future, or becoming bigger than Reliance, Apple in future, of my own self, and how I will give that back to the society as my return to the society, or my synergy back to the society. Looking forward to be that as a becoming more of a society giving people, or value adding in the society rather than value adding only the jobs which I am doing. That's what I will say as an end of my life. Thank you.
I hope you get married only once, not twice.
With a wife once.
M&A is matrimonial also, in a way. So, anyways, so Vijay Bhai, so Vijay Bhai is very seasoned, a lot of deals he has done. Maybe you can share.
Everybody is a student in this field.
You
are as good as till yesterday. I remember
yes.
Brian Lara had scored 378 runs, and to tell you the long story short, Sobers received him on the boundary line, congratulating him because he broke his record of 365. Sobers was standing in the next innings, next match. Brian Lara was going out for batting, and he said, "You may have scored 378 last innings. This inning starts with 0. And investment banking or M&A, you are only as good as today. If he does 5, 10, 15 transactions successfully, board will compliment on that day. But if tomorrow some transaction fails, क्या कर दिया भाई तुमने? So you are only good only till yesterday. That's it. You have to be, if you are working for a company as an M&A professional, you are an in-house investment banker. So you have to be jack of all. You may not know each and every subjects. I don't know many things about accounting, right? But I have 5 CAs to work, but I must know what to ask them. Because ignorance of law is not correct. We acquired one small tractor assembly company in Brazil. In Ghana, which was having major markets in Brazil. And because we acquired that company, which is a very small transaction, $40 million or something, I don't remember also. You know what? The antitrust got triggered in Ukraine, which we came to know after 2 months. Ukraine. Don't ask me how and why. Some international lawyer from New York, he got up and said, hey guys, do you know that your antitrust you have not filed in Ukraine? Now you can't say that I didn't know. If ignorance of law is law. My sales in Ukraine for tractors would stop immediately if I don't file that. So you can't say I didn't know that murdering was a crime and I murdered somebody. So you have to be alert to everything. You may not be having specialist knowledge in everything, but as an investment banker, you must know what to ask to whom. That is your job.
If you had to say, one or two things to our audience, then what would you like to tell them about their practice, how to develop their practice and how to see this area of practice in future?
I mean, I will say only in one sentence. I can answer this for another till the cows go home. But always, mindset-wise, always be having a learning attitude. You will learn every day everything from somebody or the other, either from Government of India or from some regulator or from man on the street. I mean, one of the things, I was working earlier with a private equity, and now today also I am working with a private equity, right? One of the finest things I have heard that you had enough private equity exposure. When I was invited to Mahindra & Mahindra, you were earlier in living in relationship, because private equity is what? Living in relationship, right? 5 years, 6 years, you stay and then divorce. Divorce in a sense, you go away, sell your stake. In M&A particularly, you are doing an marriage, Indian marriage, not American marriage. So the skill sets required for Indian marriage are different than skill sets required for typical European or American living in relationship. If you can understand this difference, that is what M&A is. So I'm too young to say this to you all guys, you are far more experienced, but you have to be student all along of finance, of HR, of regulatory things. You must know what questions to ask to company secretary related to a particular deal. You must know what to ask to a lawyer if you are looking for ROFO, whatever. Tag along, drag along. So you are jack of all, where you must know what to ask to whom. Expertise is available around you.
Sandip bhai, same question to you. It would be the last question, I think, in this session. Then maybe we will ask.
So I think that, chartered accountants, by their domain knowledge of accounts, finance, tax and regulatory matters, can contribute a lot in M&A sphere. It's a very interesting and a very lucrative field. I think that, chartered accountant, apart from the normal accounting and financing function, can be an investment banker, can be a transaction advisory, and can help in valuations, business modeling, and they can certainly help in financial and tax due diligence. So if somebody has an eye for detail, somebody has an investigating mindset, and he's good in number crunching, I think this is the right field for him.
Thank you very much. And I think we can have a small Q&A session. And if anyone wants to ask anything, just ask what you want to ask to which person. Yeah, please.
So basically, I wanted to ask Maulik bhai and sir, you as well, that I come from Rajkot, which is known as automobile hub and engineering hub, and I have many distressed assets or stress sales open or companies which are up for acquisitions. So one of the questions that would be in mind of all the people here would be, how do we reach? Like investment bankers is one of the options, but the other option, like I have certain companies which can be directly a unit of interest for you as well, or for Mahindra or for any other automobile company. So how can we reach there? Like mailing, there is no response always, not at all. So how do we reach?
Have you tried mailing? Have you mailed someone?
Not in Harsha, but yeah, Mahindra
No,
have.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there are something we carry as a bias. Mail will not be responded. Sir, you go first.
It's a very tricky question.
That's why I said.
See, investment banking per se, if you say, M&A per se, if it consists of 100 marks paper, then 95% marks are reserved for knowledge, both of hard and soft, interpersonality, etc., etc. 1% you must be lucky. And remaining 4% is your networking. Now you may have 95%, you may have 1%, but if you don't have this 4%, you will not make deal. How to do that is qualitative question. There is no the answer, textbooks will not give you that answer. You have to develop your network. How you follow it up? You have investment bankers, you have investment forums. How do you wine and dine in the party? That is more important. One of the things that I must say here is that in India today, my sense of last 15, 20 years of, particularly, I'm not talking of digital transactions or electronic transactions or these asset-light transactions. I'm talking of brick and mortar. See, there is a generation, my fathers, or even my generation, they have established companies in the years 1950s and 1980s. Now we are in 2023. Those companies they have grown from possibly 1 crore to now 500 crore kind of companies. But their next generation, their sons and daughters, they don't want to make their hands dirty on the shop floor. Right? They want to wear the ties and work in air-conditioned posh offices, Rothschilds and JP Morgans of this world. They don't want to move around in shop floor, and therefore succession planning is the biggest challenge and opportunity. I'm not saying only challenge, therefore opportunity which is available to you. Make a best out of it. How you do it is your networking ability.
So you were there in the first lecture, right? So I am also a sales side banker, right? I think I gave the sales side perspective also in the first lecture, how you should think about it. So try to think, who would be interested in this particular deal and maybe try a more targeted reach out.
So there is a sorted list. There is a sorted list of who may be the interested buyers, but to reach that buyer on a particular scale, at a particular level, is more important.
So once you have identified certain companies who you think are a very good, very good targeted buyer for your particular assets, right? Then networking is the key, right? So in Mahindra, info at M&M is not going to work. You have to go and ask for Vijay Bhai. Probably that will be the key.
Sourcing department. You must have friends in sourcing department.
Frankly, if you ask me, if you are looking for a buyers from Gujarat, you will find the promoter's number very easily on LinkedIn and everything. All promoters are always interested in any M&A availability, provided it's a good shortlisting you have done. So you have to do your homework first.
Marriage is a different thing, but proposal is must.
Go to the management. Top-down approach is always best approach.
Yeah, we'll take one question. So Vijay Bhai has to leave. So anyone first, we'll take a question for Vijay Bhai. Yeah, please.
My question is for all three, rather all of you. I am lucky because 1% story is there. It is an electrical vehicle project approved up to ARAI Pune level. So with automobiles, electricity and Vijay sir here, I'll how to actually meet you and give the demonstration. Thank you.
Karan is the common person.
I will tell you the ways. I don't understand anything, but I will tell you whom to go and where to meet.
Yes, sir.
Or we can discuss over the phone.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, please. Last question for Vijay Bhai.
Can we take Vijay sir question first? Yes.
Harsha Engineer is a 40-year-old traditionally grown company. So how was your journey from this traditionally grown company to the IPO level? Did you had the option of say PE approaching or some strategic partnership? And sir, and follow-up question to you, sir, you have worked in the M&A division as well as the PE thing. Then which is more ideal for this journey from a traditionally operating company to the big corporate biggies?
You want to take first? So, yeah.
Just to answer you, difficult question, but जो पैसा देता है ना, वो सबसे बड़ा होता है. So, if you are making career, then fund-based, because skin in the game. The decisions where you are enabling somebody to give their money is more important than M&A. M&A is at the end of the day service होता है. As an M&A advisor, I am helping Torrent. ये डील करो, बाद में उनका क्या होता है, मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? That's a brass tacks. But if I am working for a PE and if I am giving my money to him, then I am hooked on, because people are going to judge me कि इसने decision बराबर लिया था या नहीं लिया था. Corporate M&A is a separate situation. Corporate M&A में people will judge you that what have you advised and whether it has gone as per what you have done. But जो पैसा देता है ना वो भगवान होता है. So you are going to be, if you want to play a role of a Bhagwan, then it works both ways.
And sir, from the company's perspective, not from the professional perspective, from the company's perspective, say a company like Harsha 10 years back, and whether they should opt for a PE and then grow or go into strategic partnership?
Ideally, they should have unbiased investor who is having a skin in the game as PE as their first investor, because they will set in, their money is involved. So they will ensure that Harsha is doing all right things at the right time in the right manner. Otherwise, individual owned companies do not have necessarily right structures. आपको मालूम है, एक ही बिजनेस 6 कंपनी में करते हैं एंड देन बोलते हैं कि कौन सा प्रॉफिट कौन से कंपनी में दिखाने का वो मैं बोलूँगा. दैट इज़ नॉट acceptable to private equities. They will make you work in a correct manner. So basically you must have one private equity who will set the discipline in your company, which will help you in taking you to IPO level.
Thank you.
Yeah, to a great extent, I agree what Vijay ji has said.
If you can excuse me, I have to catch a flight to go
so
to Mumbai.
Vijay, we will take a picture and then you can take a.
So you can continue. Sorry for my.
And I think Sandip bhai and Maulik bhai, if you can give 5 more minutes, I think we'll.
Sure.
Sure.
Sorry,
take a
guys.
picture.
Yeah, sure.
Very nice to have you here.
Okay, so taking further to your last point, if I take little bit backside of my career, I was with Biotech Vision Care as a CFO for around 1.5 years around. Over there was a single promoter, very young promoter, and business was in a growing stage, 120, 150 crore turnover. At that time, we think that P is the right fit because as Vijay ji has rightly mentioned, P is the party who will ensure that your controls are in place, you are growing in a systematic manner, and they ensures that all the skill level is updated, because once a promoter company is there, वो कंपनी का HR भी प्रमोटर होता है, एडमिन भी प्रमोटर होता है, मार्केटिंग भी प्रमोटर होता है, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग भी प्रमोटर होता है. Once PE come, PE ensures that you have that respective head and responsible person in place. So that's why PE plays a right role. For a company like Harsha, we may differ because Harsha is in presence since last 40 years. If you see, they are well established in SIP process, they are well established in internal controls. They have SBU structures also in place. So professionals are driving the profitabilities also. Harsa has SAP even before the Zydus time. I was in Zydus. Zydus has implemented SAP during my journey in 2008. Harsa was having SAP since 2004. So does not matter that whether it's a promoter-driven company than PE or whether it's a professional company than IPO. It's more about where the company is standing as of now. If company is not ready for multiple investors, best is PE. Because investors are themselves in a different bucket. They have a different mindsets. They are people of numbers, just like a PE investors. PE investors comes only for one thing, to exit. They don't come for anything else. They come only for exit at a right value, at a right price. When it's a strategic investor, something like IPO, or maybe you will find a different buyers also. The party who is invested is for a long game. They believe in your dream. They believe in your vision. PE never believes in your dream. PE believes in your value. So that's the delta you should be very clear. In biotech, the right fit was PE because that PE will multifold the valuations and then go for a IPO. So that by diversifying 5-10% as of now, you are enhancing your 90% value for the future. But in case of a Harsa kind of scenario, we were very clear that not PE is a right fit because PE will not make any value addition in my technology. PE will not make any value addition in my customer base. PE will not make any value addition in my market shares. Then no, it's not making sense. PE has to make valuation for you. PE should earn 5x from you. You should earn 500x from PE. That should be the approach when you approach for a PE. That's the simple thing I understand in my last two companies. Still, yeah, Karan is the one who has done many transactions like this. So
Spot on.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Recently, what we have done is we have pitched in one investor and we have found a common merchant banker for SME IPO, which is the right approach. So his favorite merchant banker is going to do the SME IPO, and in his guidance, we are doing the SME IPO. So
if it is SME IPO, it has to be favorite.
It has to be?
It has to be favorite in inverted comma. So
I
that's
mean,
how SME IPO always goes with a closed looks.
Yeah,
usually.
so the investor is going to lead that SME IPO. So I think that is a safe approach.
I think yes, but yeah, Karan would be having one
So
more
Karan
idea.
bhai?
I don't have SME IPOs idea. We go to the mainstream.
It has to be from. I guess your,
No, I think I have very limited knowledge about IPO, etc. So I will actually leave this question to you. Won't be appropriate for me to answer.
Whether it is main board or that, with the listing, we are bringing the investor in between as a buffer. So it is not.
So generally SME IPO, even frankly my knowledge is also limited. But yeah, in case of any IPO, especially SME IPOs, you'll need some investor, who will be there standing with you.
The prior commitment we are doing.
Sir, one thing I will say.
That is actually necessary also in SME
No,
IPO.
so in common parlance, if you have an anchor investor, that is always going to help you in your IPO.
Yes.
But sir, one thing I will say, if there are no multiple investors, why to list yourself? Why to carry a risk of bombarding your market shares? You are carrying that risk that in future they can get an easy exit. Maybe at a low value or at any X value. If it is a real PE investors, he should come as a private investor only rather than the public investor. That's my primary answers, but obviously this is subject to your financials and everything.
So in my, in my experiences also, SME IPOs have not been very great in creating values because they are very small. You are not able to generate that kind of investor interest in your company. But of course, last year and a half, certain 10-15% of companies have done exceedingly well and, jumped to main board IPO. So who am I to, say? But yeah, how you should think about it is, in case of any IPO, you need investor interest. You have to generate some kind of excitement in the market, right? Which Raju bhai himself and with Maulik did that, when they were doing their roadshows. If you are not doing that and if you are just getting some closed-looped investors, then in the long run you are going to destroy your value. This is something that...
Sorry, I will add. The only idea is in market as a chartered accountant, I am here since 81 with my father KM Shah, HK Shah. So what we found was that last minute some merchant bankers, very known names, they come to the promoter and say कि वो investor घूम गया है. So we have reversed the game. We are bringing investors from Mumbai and Kolkata, and commitment say so the promoter is not put in last minute emotional and that blackmailing like that.
Yeah.
Karan bhai.
Yeah, we will, I think that was the last question.
Apart from being into practice, I am also into this IPO advisory. And yes, sir. So just to answer this, a scenario on SME IPO. So since 2012, this SME IPO came into market, and currently now there are more than 500 companies listed on this SME exchange. Till 2017-18, the scenario was like there were structured deals happening in the SME segment, and there were no good investors coming into play. But since 2017-18, we have seen a lot of scenario changing. Like to identify what will be the Infosys, Tata or Birla of 2040. The investors are looking for these small companies where they can double the profits, where the companies are going to double their revenue, double their profits, because not much growth is going to come in the big companies like you name as Tata, Reliance or anything. So in the recent times, we have seen very good anchor investors, name it as Ashish Kacholia, Vijay Kedia, Madhusudan Kela, all are being a part of anchor investors in the SME segment. If there is a good story going in.
They are all genuine good investors.
They are all genuine good investors, and they are the top 10 in, yes.
Investees are also very good.
In few IPOs, as an anchor investor, we have seen SDFC Bank also getting subscribed in the QIB segment. So the
We have to change the mindset. The industrialists who are good, like Harsha Engineers, Raju Bhai, etc., they need to come out of that closed box and take that call that, okay, we are ready to share one day in AGM, we will, for one day in a year, we will reply the investors. We are ready to become partners. Otherwise, they are in that who moved my cheese type of case. So that mentality change is happening because of good committed investors. They are ready to come and take the risk of going to that day of listing.
But then you have to see that that care of listing can be taken by any advisor or merchant banker or investor. That is not a problem. But just then you have to see the integrity of the investors that are coming in.
That is exactly what we are doing, because that earlier merchant bankers have been getting bad name. Last minute ke aap you know the games.
Yes, I know the game, but अभी क्या होगा कि सर अभी जो SME IPO का hype है मार्केट में, तो it is not a compulsion कि वही investors को वो shares allot होंगे.
As a CA, we put our goodwill that this investor is our call and you take the call. That we give assurance to the investee.
I think we can stop this question. You know, it's slightly different. It's not exactly related to M&A, and maybe I think this discussion will continue after 5 minutes. Last 5 minutes, maybe 1 or 2 quick questions for Sandip Bhai and Maulik. You know, anyone? SME IPO discussion we can take offline, right? Yeah. I think, yeah, so about time.
So ladies and gentlemen, on the behalf of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Ahmedabad, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each of you for your active participation and valuable contributions to the recently concluded Mergers and Acquisitions seminar. We are truly honored to have the industry experts, distinguished speakers, and the esteemed professionals share their insights and knowledge during the seminar. Your willingness to share your experiences and expertise has enriched the learning experiences. As we conclude this seminar on mergers and acquisitions, let us remember that the true synergy lies not just in merging of the companies, but in the unity of knowledge, experience, and shared aspirations. Once again, thank you for your enthusiastic participation and valuable contributions. We look forward in your continued engagement in future endeavors. Thank you very much.